Before we wrap up here, let's get to Penn State versus West Virginia. I'm going to lead this segment off before we get out of here. Joe, I've been doing this since, I guess, video-wise, podcast-wise, since 2020 when COVID started. I have never, by a fan base, taken as much punishment from a fan base than I did this past 10 days from West Virginia fans. Now, everybody that saw me on Twitter, you know exactly what I'm talking about because I bookmarked and quote tweeted all of them. This game had played out exactly how I previewed it.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that you picked West Virginia, but played exactly the same. I took a lot of heat from the media in Morgantown this week, from articles being written to people putting clown noses on my face, media members, I might
Losers.
add.
Idiots.
Losers. And because I said that Garrett Green is a below average passer because he throws at a 53% completion percentage rate. Yesterday, Garrett Green went 15 of 28. Do you want to know what the statistical stat of that is?
53%.
53.5%. Here's the God's honest truth. You don't have the talent that Penn State had. Your quarterback is below average when it comes to throwing the football. I've been trying to tell you that. Is he a good deep ball thrower? Sounds great. But when you have to look at it holistically of what he's got. If you want to beat a team like Penn State, Joe, what do you have to do? You have to have a quarterback that can move the football on third down. They were 4 of 14 on third down. Garrett Green was 1 of 7 on third down throwing the football. And by the way, they awarded them a first down, okay, when on a fourth down call on a run that they never should have. They barely should have gotten to 12 points. The truth is, Andy Kotelnicki, who is the new OC at Penn State, along with Allen, who's the new DC. Joe, I'm going to be a little real with you, man. They dominated from start to finish. And you know what I love about what Penn State did? An hour and a half, 2-hour weather delay. And you know what they did? They came out in the second half and they still dominated their ass in a place where it's not home to them. Everything was going against Penn State. Drew Aller threw absolute dots yesterday. Only 11 for 17. That's fine, but they never got out of their game plan. Penn State is going to be who Penn State is. They're not going to lose to teams like West Virginia. They might lose to Ohio State. They might lose to Michigan. They might lose to Oregon. But what does Penn State and James Franklin do? They never and hardly rarely do they lose to teams that are less talented than them. Hardly ever. And that was the part that I was trying to make. They were going to be better than you up front on both lines of scrimmage. They were. They were going to have better athletes than you. They did. They're going to run the football better than you. They did. There wasn't anything that West Virginia can do. And by the way, you got outcoached by James Franklin. Neil Brown, you got outcoached by James Franklin. Joe, I'm going to tell you this. The coordinator duo of Kotelnicki and Allen is one of the best in the country, whether we want to admit it or not.
That's a little too soon. One game, it's a little too soon to jump on that.
Allen has been around for a long time. Name a better duo with experience than Kotelnicki and Allen. I'll wait.
I'm not going to be able to name that off the top of my head, but I'm not going to sit here and crown that to them after one game. Look, they had a phenomenal game. West Virginia looked like the moment was too big for them. Like they legitimately pooped their pants with the amount of mistakes that they made and the sloppy play that they had. Garrett Green played exactly as you depicted. A hair above average, quite literally. He was 53%. Couldn't have been just a slight hair over as average as he could have been, where he completed some nice deep balls down the field. He had some really silly throws that were way off target that needed to be better placed that could have resulted in big first downs. Turnovers, bad snaps, just so many blown coverages, so many stupid things. West Virginia did not look ready for the moment, and I wholeheartedly regret putting any faith in them. Sure, they could be a good Big 12 team. I think that the Big 12 is going to be seriously lame this year. That's all I got to say about West Virginia. I will give credit where credit is due. I was wrong about Penn State and especially Drew Aller. I think that Nick Singleton, which is a prediction that I had a while ago when Kotelnicki was hired, I think that Nick Singleton is going to have a ridiculous stat line by the end of the year because Kotelnicki realized we need to give Singleton way more carries. Katron Allen's a good spell back, but we need to just keep scheming him the football and get creative with him in space. he's going to gash any defense he goes up against, even the biggest opponents that they have. And Allard looked a lot more poised. The ball was coming out with a lot more drive. I think people are going to always criticize him.
He knew what he needed to do. That was the thing that was big.
He looked like a much improved player, and I think that there is a really good flow between him and Kotelnicki. So I'll admit I'm wrong with Penn State. I'd love to see how they're going to play in their bigger matchups and how they're going to do in the Big Ten, but I think that they're deserving of being ranked within the top 10, top 15, the way that they looked against West Virginia.
They're a playoff contender, Joe, based off their schedule. I'm sorry. Because here's the
thing. I'll give that to
you. Here's the thing about Penn State, man. What do they not do? They don't lose to teams that they're less talented than. And they ran the ball for 222 yards. Did you see what Andy Kotelnicki's comments were about his offense, by the way? Best comp I've ever heard. He said it's like a Dairy Queen Blizzard. It looks like it's fancy and that there's a lot of things that go into it, but all it really is vanilla and your favorite candy, and that's all that it is. They ran the football right at him. Allard had a really good game. They really diced him up in the secondary, and Brown got out-coached. Again, when Garrett Green goes 15 or 28 and you can't convert and throw the ball on third down, when your coach is an air raid principled coach, because that's what Neil Brown is. I'm sorry. You're just – Joe, they're not a good football team. You know how they won 9 games last year?
Because they beat up on a weak schedule.
They beat up on a weak schedule, and they're more talented than those other teams that were in the Big 12 last year. And what they don't understand, and what they will never understand in West Virginia, when you take on teams like Penn State, there's a fine line of things that you have to do to upset teams, like what Georgia Tech did against Florida State. Joe, your quarterback has to make big plays. Your quarterback can't be stagnant and not being able to convert on third down. Joe, we talked about Haynes King last Sunday, and what did we say? Well, the big runs that he had on third down, the big passes that he had on third down, that's how they won. West Virginia fans, you came after me for 10 straight days, talked all kinds of ungodly shit. No, I don't forgive you. No, I don't think your program is ready against a team like Penn State. And until you start getting better athletes and quarterbacks in there, you won't be. All right.
Was it you who retweeted that article? Yeah, it was you who retweeted the article that was like, is it time to talk about firing Neil Brown? It's like, Jesus Christ, get a goddamn grip.
Here's the thing. The same guy that did that article was the same guy that was ripping us about having an up-and-coming podcast. Sorry, we're close to 10,000 subscribers in a year.
Reframe that, goddammit. We are a big podcast. We had 400 fucking people in here today. That's double what we normally do. Put some respect on our name. This video is sponsored by the online fitness training camp presented by Chris Gates Fitness. When I first started talking about Chris, about partnering with our show, not only was I excited to have a fitness sponsor for our pod, but more importantly, when I found out about how he can help people achieve their goals, I was even more bought in, because when the football season starts, it is so tough to stay on top of things and also to be able to enjoy yourself on Saturdays when it's game day. With Chris Gates Fitness's online training camp, you're going to be able to effectively stay focused, consistent, burn fat, build muscle, and do it with a like-minded community of individuals working towards the same thing. On top of this, you're going to be able to get direct coaching from Chris and the ability to ask him questions with an access to a live Q&A where you can get direct, personalized support from Chris himself. Don't wait any longer. If you're trying to get in shape during this fall and you want to be able to do it with the right support system, head on over to chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp or click the link in the description. And you need to do it today because you can get the first month. Personal training is expensive, folks. The first month for only $10 when you use that code RuffinoJoe. Don't wait any longer. Head on over there. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.